Welcome to Thought Chakra. Today we are going to discuss about the Cabinet Mission Plan. The Cabinet Mission was a mission sent by the Attlee Government in February 1946 in order to propose a constitutional framework to break the deadlock between the Indian political groups. It was a statement made by Lord Wavell, the then Viceroy. The mission had three members from the British Cabinet: Pethick Lawrence, A.V. Alexander and Stafford Cripps. The mission was aimed at discussing a potential transfer of powers from the Britishers to the Indian leadership. Pethick Lawrence was the Secretary of State for India, while Stafford Cripps was the President of the Board of Trade. A.V. Alexander was the First Lord of Admiralty. The important point to note here is, Lord Wavell was not a member of the Cabinet Mission but was involved. Historical context of the Cabinet Mission. Following the intention of the elected Labour government in Britain to form a constituent assembly capable of framing the Indian constitution, the Cabinet Mission was sent to India in the March of 1946. During the time, Indian National Congress and Muslim League had reached a major roadblock in the terms of ideological differences and future of India. Many Britishers wished for a united India, as it would have given pride to the British Empire in having politically unified the continent. Some British authorities also had doubts about the feasibility of Pakistan as an independent state. Shimla Conference was an attempt to facilitate an agreement between the two politically opposing parties. It eventually failed and the Cabinet Mission sent to reach a consensus. Both the parties were unwilling to reach a settlement. These two parties emerged victorious in the general and provincial elections and hence had a bigger say in the subcontinental politics. Despite their commitment to a united India, the British could no longer reverse the consequence of the seed of separatism sown while they offered separate electorates based on religion in the Government of India Act of 1919. Objectives of the Cabinet Mission: to reach a consensus on the question of framing of Indian Constitution by Indian political parties, to establish the Constituent Assembly of India, which would be responsible for the framework and ingredients of the Constitution, and to establish an Executive Council with the support of major Indian political parties. Recommendations of the Cabinet Mission Plan. The following were the recommendations made by the Cabinet Mission Plan. There shall be a Union of India which would consist of both British India and the states, and this union would deal with foreign affairs, communication and defence as its subjects. The Union of India would have powers necessary to be able to raise finance as and when required from any of the above subjects. The Union shall have executive and legislature which would be constituted from the representatives of the states and British India. Any question that would raise a communal issue would be decided by the majority of the representatives present and voting from each of the two major communities, as well as the majority of the members present and voting. The provinces shall vest all the subjects other than the Union subjects and all residuary powers. Other than the powers ceded to the Union of India, all other subjects and adjoining powers would remain with the states. Provinces could form groups with legislatures and executives freely, with each group having the power to determine the provincial subjects. The demand for a full-fledged independent Pakistan was rejected. The grouping of the provincial assemblies was to be done in three sections. Section A, which would consist of the Hindu majority provinces, and Section B and C, which would include the Muslim majority provinces. Princely states would be free to enter into an arrangement with the British government or any other successor government and would no longer be under the paramountcy of the British government. What was National Congress's reaction to the Cabinet Mission? Initially, the plan was accepted by the Indian National Congress. However, the Congress party soon rejected the grouping in the Cabinet Mission Plan, and it was dividing the provincial assemblies on the communal lines is what was told by the Indian National Congress. What was the Muslim League's reaction to the Cabinet Mission? The plan was also accepted initially by the Muslim League. The Muslim League was, however, not open to changing any part of the plan. Hence, the consensus between the Indian National Congress and Muslim League couldn't be reached. The proceedings of the Constituent Assembly began, and as a result, an interim government was formed with Jawaharlal Nehru as the Prime Minister. The Muslim League refused to be a part of the Constituent Assembly as well as the interim government and directed the Direct Action Day, leading to large-scale violence across the countries. What were the reasons for the failure of the Cabinet Mission? The Congress Party wanted a strong centre with minimum powers to the provinces. On the other hand, the Muslim League wanted a strong political safeguard for the Muslims. Due to the wide ideological differences, the mission arrived in India to set up a consensus between the two parties in May of 1946. The Indian Dominion was to be granted independence without any partition. However, the provinces were to be divided into three groups. Group A with the Hindu majority provinces, Group B and C with the Muslim majority provinces. This grouping was not acceptable to the Indian National Congress as it was made on the basis of religion. It also gave an idea that the independent India would have a weak center. Muslim League, on the other hand, didn't want any amendments to the proposed sections or groups of the provinces. Due to this, a major roadblock was reached and erupted into violence in India. Due to this, another new plan was proposed by the mission in June of 1946. In this new plan, a division of India into a Hindu majority India and a Muslim majority India, which was later renamed to Pakistan, was proposed. A list of princely states could either remain independent or be a part of any of the two unions formed. The Congress party under Jawaharlal Nehru rejected the second plan. Instead, he agreed to be a part of the Constituent Assembly. The Viceroy then invited 14 men to be a part of the interim government. 5 were from Congress, 5 from Muslim League, 1 member each to represent the Sikh, Parsi, Indian Christian and scheduled caste community. Both Indian National Congress and Muslim League were asked to give their nomination for the membership to the Viceroy's interim government. The Muslim League, however, didn't participate in the interim government. Nehru headed the interim government after Muslim League boycotted the Viceroy's interim council. Jinnah and the League objected to this newly formed central government and agitated the demand for a new Muslim country named Pakistan. He called for the Direct Action Day on 16th of August 1946. As a result, widespread communal rioting in the country took place, killing more than 5,000 people in Calcutta on the very first day. The communal riots broke out in other notable areas of Noakhali and Bihar. On account of the riots happening in the country, there was a call for the partition of the country. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was one of the first Congress leaders to acknowledge the inevitability of a partition to stop the deadly violence. What was the significance of the cabinet mission? The cabinet mission was also referred to as a state paper. The Constituent Assembly acknowledged the plan's creation and wanted to adhere to the plan's proposal as much as possible. At the same time, it said that the assembly drew its legitimacy from the people of India. It kept the doors open for the Muslim League to join the proceedings of the Constituent Assembly. Further, the cabinet mission was very critical to scholarly works that engaged in various aspects of the Indian constitutionalism, history, politics, law, partition, and federalism. Some people also believe that the main intent behind the cabinet mission was to secure British defence interest in the Indian Ocean region. On a whole, the cabinet mission was relevant to both the scholars and the public in general. Thank you. Subscribe to Thought Chakra for more such content. Hit the bell icon.